Oh yeah. Sorry, man. Let me out student issues and questions about the assignments, and then the value adds to some of the assignments and why it is that they're kind of important, and how I see them being kind of a benefit to the overall development experience. And so we were right before the start of the class, we were discussing kind of bash scripting, shell scripting, and kind of opportunities for why this kind of stuff becomes useful for a web developer. So the reason that you learn some basic administrative tasking and some basic skills around that is one, anytime you have an opportunity to work with a server that you yourself have to do this, it's kind of important to know at least a little bit of what's going on in the background. Two, when you do develop and you're dealing with servers that are live and active, you're going to be experiencing times when you're going to need to look up and kind of figure out what's going on, like through log data. And so that's kind of why we have that log analysis assignment. Secondarily, when we talk about things like shell scripting, the reason we've included that is because when you're given tasks like, let's say, log migration, log analysis, development of specific devices, of specific things that are outside of simply the limited abilities of PHP. Again, if you have to create, let's say, zip files, and you can do some of that through PHP, but you may need to use the operating system layer to kick off other processes that have greater levels of complexity. When you do this kind of stuff, it's kind of important to really understand what's going on in the back end and how to make things happen automatically, or as I like to jokingly say, automagically. One of the common tasks that I've been given in the past is to do large-scale data migration and data manipulation. And so the way that I do a lot of this is through shell scripts. So I'll write scripts to do things like zip and encrypt files, email those files, pull files from certain locations, and then on the other end, from one server to another, again, I will have the received files put into a specific folder, and then inside of that folder, have those files unzipped, unencrypted, and placed sorted in specific orders. And the reason that I do this is so that way, when the tasks that are kind of require these operations need to occur, I don't have to be the guy who literally copies and pastes things and moves stuff around. It's a cron job, which I think some of you have started, tied to a bash script, and I don't have to do anything. I just have to go in and check the logs for my cron, validate that it happened, and then it's done, right? So again, it takes away the need to the long kind of process-oriented actions associated with these kind of admin tasks, and instead you're kind of writing these processes yourself, and then being able to do that without kind of having to babysit it. Again, let's face it, and it just makes your life easier. All right. So, do you have any other questions, or do you have any questions, Marlon?
Well, just is related to the bash assignment again.
Mm-hmm.
You had said that and for that assignment, we're supposed to actually create a script. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. So in the assignment, I believe that it has a section in there where it talks about creating a script, and I can't remember if it's a bash or advanced bash, but there's a part in there where you're going to be moving some files around and creating some folders, and in that, make a shell script. So that way you can store all of the things that need to get done, and you can run them as a single process, as opposed to just just typing them through the command line. Just real quick, I'll give a quick example of this. And so I'm doing this on my local machine only. And so now I have a new machine, so I don't have anything set up in the way of like a nice, pretty bash repository. So instead, what I'm going to do is just create that very quickly. And I'm just going to move first off to my desktop. From my desktop, I will create a single location, put a shell script inside of that, and then we can talk about how it does stuff and how we run it and so forth. So real quick, I'm just going to move to my desktop. So first thing I need to do is just check out where I am, pwd. All right, and so from there, I need to change directory. I believe it's desktop. No, let's see. Check what's inside of here. So yeah, it's desktop. Okay, so CD. So these are all the things that I have on my desktop currently. So what I'm going to do is from here, I'm simply going to add a file. So I'm going to make a directory. Inside of that, I just need to name it something. In this case, it's going to be class 3 NSS. And you'll now see it's been created. We can do long form of the same thing, ls space -l. And if we want to do the same thing, we talk about a shell script, we can just go into that. And then we can create a shell script. So we can use touch. You'll see that it's now been created. And then we can use whatever whatever program we want to use to go in and edit it. So in this case, let's just use Nano. We can just, and then from here, we need to add this, what's called the shebang. And then from here, we just add whatever we want to do. So we want to make a directory. And then inside of that directory, we might want to add a file. And so then all of these things we can kind of compile together. And then we can run them. Are you familiar with all this, Marlon?
Sorry about that. Yes, I on the it seems like the tutorial we did online with for the assignment and
yeah,
how we move the files and all that. I remember doing that. Yes.
Okay, good. So in this case, just to be clear, you see that we have a shell script.
Okay.
Right, and you see that there is nothing inside of this directory beyond that shell script, right? So
right.
There's nothing there. So we just got to do a quick chmod, which does. Do you remember what chmod does?
Change is no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, so chmod, it changes the permissions associated with files. So in this case, I'm going to delete this, and we're going to do another ls space -l. So what does ls do?
Doesn't it list all the files in the directory?
ls lists, and it does what's called long form, and long form basically means that it includes a bunch of pertinent information related to the file. And then the thing that we're interested in here is this part. So this is where permissions are defined, and I'm pretty sure there's a video that talks about it. But at its core, I want to go over this a little bit because I think this is something most people kind of like struggle with. So at its core, when you have basically 4 pieces of information here, 4 groups of information. You have this first little dash, which is sometimes a D, like up here, which
right.
stands for directory. Then you have 3 pieces of information, a W, an R, and a possible X. Again, we'll take a look up top here. You see where I'm highlighting now?
Yes.
Okay, so to see that's a read, write, X. So that is read, or WRX, and it's read, write, execute. So, and I said that there are 4 pieces. So we have the first thing is whether it's a directory or not. So if it has a D, it's a directory. If not, it's a file. Then you have the first 3, which is the owner of the file, or owner of whoever owns the thing. Okay? And it is his permissions or her permissions on the read, write, execute to that thing. Then the group that is associated with it. So if there's a group that is associated with this particular thing, then that is the types of permissions that they have. And then finally, the everybody group. And that's what permissions everybody has. Now, the way you set these is a little confusing at first. And in order to kind of understand that, we have to, we have to understand how. Do you remember anything about bit-based math? There's a video on it. Boolean math.
About the bits?
Yeah.
No. Is it when you write them like? Are you talking about the binary number and all that, or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
binary numbers, exactly. So real quick, I'm just going to give you again a quick tutorial, and I know this is seems kind of haphazard, but you have to understand each of these pieces to get what we're about to do. So, okay, so the way bits work is the first bit is going to be worth 1, the second bit is worth twice that, and the third bit is going to be worth twice that. Okay?
Okay.
So if I add all of those up, that plus that plus that, you following along? What's that equal? Okay, so now imagine this. Read, write, execute. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now this column, let me make it more clear. Okay, so this is the permissions, this is the value, and then this is the presence or absence, so we're going to call this the bit. Okay, so if it has read permissions, it has a 1 or a true, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right.
If someone has write permissions, it has a 1. If they don't, have a 0.
Correct.
If they have execute permissions, they have a 1 or a 0. Okay?
Right.
So, what permissions does this theoretical thing have?
Combined.
If you were to see look at each column, and what is it that person might have, right? So if we have a 1, a 0, and a 0, they would have read.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Read. Yeah. That's it. To read, right?
Read, no write, no execute, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So if we were to represent read, no write, and no execute as a single number, we could add all those up, right? And we would get what?
Jeez.
1 plus 0 plus 0.
Oh, you just add them up, then.
Yeah, just like that.
Well, this is 1 then, yeah.
1, right? Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Okay, I know. Hold on. It sounds like it's going to be complex, but it kind of is. So then what we're going to do is actually I'm going to do a quick format here, so that way it makes this a little easier to do visually. And all I'm going to do is just do some multiplication so we can copy this thing down and you can see the different values. Okay, so I'm just going to take this column, which is the execute column, right? I'm just going to do a quick multiplication, multiply by that, okay, and what Excel does to keep it from moving is to do that, but you don't need to worry about that part, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing for each of the other pieces, right? So we're just going to go up 1 column and multiply the C2 or C3 times the one above it, so the value. You following along with this?
Yes.
Okay. I know this is a little confusing, but it's actually going to make things a little easier in just 1 second. Do the same thing with the last one, $B, $2. Okay, so now we have each one of those guys. So now we can just put 1s and 0s in. And then we can just copy the whole thing down. So this permission is what? Read, no write, no execute, right?
Correct.
What if we have no reading, writing, and executing? And no executing. It's a total of 2, right?
Right.
Okay, so if we have execute and no read and write, what do we have?
Let's see here.
It's how much is execute worth?
Well, previously it was 0.
Well, no, I'm saying that what is the possible value?
I'm saying 4. I'm sorry, yeah, 4.
Right. Okay. So if I have execute, no read, no write, what's that going to be worth?
Execute, no read, no write.
So this one,
right,
without adding this one or that one.
Right. It'd be 4.
That's it. All right. So we can do 1, 0, 0. Okay.
Right.
So now let's do some. So you see now, that each individual one can be represented by a specific number. So we can do the same thing with combinations, right? So if we go read and write, but no execute, that's 3, right?
Correct.
Let's do the next one. So let's say read, no write, and execute. 5.
Right.
Okay, and then so let's do no read, write, and execute. 6, and then all of them.
7. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to delete this guy just because he doesn't do us any good. So there's every combination there, right?
Correct.
Right. So we have all the different versions, and we can equate the permissions associated with each one of those with a single number, right?
Right.
Okay. So if I tell you that the permissions for the owner is 6, what does that mean?
That they can execute and they can write.
Correct. Okay, that nut you just got, that understanding, that piece of knowledge, keep that, because now I'm gonna make it a little funnier, right? So
Okay.
that means, remember, now what do we have? We have 3 pieces of information. We have an owner, okay, and we have a group, and we have everyone. Okay?
Okay.
If I told you that this is 5, 4, 3, what are the permissions for each one of those groups, each one of those sections? What are the owner permissions?
I'm a little lost here. Based off of what we have here, right?
We got a 5.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So what is
Yeah,
a
okay.
5?
Yeah, they can read and execute.
Yep. So we have read and execute. Okay,
Right.
what is a 4?
They can just execute.
What is a 3?
Read and write.
Okay. So you see how there's R's and X's, and see how that kind of looks like this?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we're doing, right? We're impacting whether or not people can read, write, and execute. Why does this matter? Okay. Why does it matter for us building a shell script? In order for a shell script to run, a shell script has to have execute permissions. You have to be able to execute it. So when we just made this new little shell script just a minute ago, right? What do we see here? We see read, we see write, but we do not see execute, even for the owner, do we?
Correct.
All right, so we need to give execute permissions to the owner, because I built it, we just made it, so I need to be able to execute it. So if we go back to our little Excel sheet, what are the permissions that we should give to the owner? Right, well, we're writing a shell script, right?
Okay.
So if we're writing a shell script, we should probably be able to write it.
Right
to it. And if we're writing a shell script, we should probably be able to read it as well, right? Because we got to see it.
Right.
And we got to execute it. So what permissions do we need for the owner?
All 3, 7.
7, right.
Right.
So now comes the business questions. So if this is just development, what kind of permissions, how many groups, if it's just for you to develop for you, what do we need to set the groups to?
Just for me?
If you're the only person who's going to be dealing with this thing, what do we set groups to?
Well, I got to see everything and write it and execute, right?
But you already got those. You're the owner.
Oh, as an owner, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So everybody else?
Oh, they can at least for sure read.
Are you sure? Think about it this way, and this is a deeper information question. So information security perspective is what's called least privilege. The nut of that is the crux of that is you don't give any permission to anybody that they don't need.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So if I told you, think about it from like your bank. Would you want to give out like your bank information
No.
to people who don't need it? Right. Well,
Okay.
you should treat all information that way.
Okay.
If you don't need it, then I don't need to give it to you.
I see.
Again, from that perspective, what kind of permissions do you think they need?
Then they don't need any.
Right. So none.
Yeah, 0.
Right. And if somebody in the group that was assigned to this thing doesn't get any, do you think everybody should have any?
Absolutely not.
See? Okay. So this right there This three pieces of information, these three little numbers, tell us what?
That the owner, well, the permissions that people or the groups, or not the group, but that each category has.
Right. So the owner has.
All, read, write, and execute, and then group and everyone, they can't do anything.
Perfect. That was the piece. So chmod is the command for it's change and modify. So what we're doing is we're changing the permissions. So the command says we're going to put in the permissions that we're granting, and then the file name.
Okay.
And if I just hit tab to finish. Okay, so all I did is run that one script. Now you see what the old permissions look like right here, right?
Correct.
So if I do the same thing that I did before, ls space -l, look at the new permissions.
There it is. RX, RW. Right. Okay.
RWX. Okay, so we now have this thing set up to run. We run it through the bash command, which is appropriate because it's a bash script, and then we just run the actual script. Now, real quick, before I run this, though, I want to do something, because remember, I don't know if you remember what it did, but it just creates a file and puts a folder in it. That's all it does. Okay, so, but what I'm going to do real quick is I just want to look around to see what else is in this file, right? So we're just going to do a quick ls, and we see that the only thing that's in here right now is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm going to write bash, my shell script, and I'm going to run it. Now I'm going to run an ls again and look.
Okay, test is in
what
there
did the
now.
bash? Okay, so what did the bash script do?
It moved it in there.
Or it created it, right?
Or created, yeah.
Yeah, so it somehow or another, it became, there's a thing that suddenly showed up.
Okay.
So we're going to do, real quick, let's take a quick second, and we're going to go look in the bash script and see what it did. So we do, so again, nano is just a text editor. And let's take a look. So what it did is it said to make a directory called test, which seems to have happened. And then it has this other command called touch slash or test slash and make or test file.txt. So what is that? That's telling you to create a test, the test file.txt. Where is it making it?
In the test folder?
In the test folder. So we're going to take a quick look at that again. So we're going to do ls space -l and take a look. We can see here it's a directory.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, because
so
it has
now it's got a D.
Okay.
So then what we're going to do is we're going to go look inside of that. ls. And what do we see?
Test file.
The test file.txt that we made.
Correct. Okay.
With the script. So why is this useful? If we're going to migrate data, if we're going to look at data, if we're going to change data, if we're going to do anything, we can do these little scripts that take care of all of that stuff for us automatically. And this is all operating system level stuff. So this is like, I'm actually doing this not on my server, on my remote or my virtualized server, but I'm actually doing this right here on the local Mac. So you can actually do this on your Macintosh and have jobs and set up scheduled things and do this kind of work right from this location.
Okay.
Okay. So does that clear up kind of the whole process for doing bash scripting? Does that make it a little easier?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those, like, one of the topics that I like to talk about while we're in these kind of meetings, is because it's much easier to hear about it than it is to kind of read about it. And the videos are pretty good, but until you get somebody to kind of take all the little pieces and kind of arrange them, it's a little difficult to stomach. Believe me, I did it by hand, I researched it, and it was just not fun. So having people who can kind of glean this in, I think, is really useful. So do you have any other questions concerning any of the other topics?
Well, just real quick on this, like that script that we just made there, real quick, for the example.
Uh-huh.
It said my shell script. where exactly is that at? Because then that's all confusing to me.
Okay, so we're going to go up one level. All right, and so in this case, LS. So what do we have? We are in. This is the name of the. This right here is the name of the folder we're currently in. But we
Okay,
can use a single command called pwd, and that
that's
calls us called
where you're
print
at, right?
working directory. Okay,
Okay,
and that tells us exactly where we're at.
all
So
right.
this is users slash J Dalton, me, slash desktop slash class
3N55.
3 NSS, right?
Oh,
So
SS.
NSS, right? So again, if we look on the desktop, we can see right there. Makes perfect
Okay.
sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. So and the way you find that out is you just use exactly these kinds of things. Right? You just go in and you kind of look around, and it's when you first start, it's very common to go in through the um, windows where you actually see the physical representation of what's going on. But after a while of doing this, you start to not need them as much, and you'll start to just like kind of encapsulate that kind of hierarchy of those relationships of the tables, or not tables, files and folders. You'll just start to encapsulate that without needing the UI, the
Okay.
user interface. So other questions?
Not for now. That's it. Um, that really helped a lot. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And again, don't hesitate to contact me. And with all seriousness, text message is by far the best, and I'm happy to jump on the call with you. So just let me know if there's a time or a place or what have you. Let's see. So I need, really, I wanted to talk about shell scripting. So that was kind of the topic of the day that I'd like to kind of discuss. So there should be some videos on it, and we've kind of gone through it now and take a look a little bit. Let me think of a few other useful tools. Let's go back in. Actually, we're going to do something a little different. So we're going to do a little nano, and I'd like to do a quick cleanup to eliminate the shell script, which I'm going to start writing. And this currently, I'm going to eliminate this test.txt and the test folder. So I'm just going to create a quick delete nano or delete shell script. So I'm just going to create a quick del.sh, and again, we're going to use the shebang to let the interpreter know that this is the shell we're going to use, and then we're just going to write should be remove, what was the name of that? Test file.sh, text txt, and then we're going to remove all right, and we'll just modify that. And then we just need to quickly run the chmod again against that particular, and then we'll just run it. So I put it in the wrong place. I got it in the wrong order. Sorry, I put it in the wrong order. What are you talking about? I'm removing the. Oh, that's why. So
Oh, it's in the folder for test. Okay.
yeah. There we go. And then you just saw over here, you saw that
Right.
all
It
just
changed.
disappeared.
Okay.
It all disappeared. So again, if we run it, we run the creation again. No, so you see it all pops back in.
All right.
Right, and then we run it and it disappears. So if we want to go in and again start modifying this and start making a few other things, and we can start migrating, moving stuff around, and then we just do the same stuff. So nano. So we make a directory again. We can now when we talk about pathing, and then pathing is kind of important because if you ever go to websites, you'll see like there's like let's say google.com/this/that. Those slashes represent file structures within the server. So as you get into this a little further, you should encounter the www folder and the HTML folder within that. And so when you're in those folders, those are actual folder structures, and that's kind of how you organize websites. So that applies here as well. So if we wanted to do something called, let's say we wanted to touch, again, touch is just a command that makes an empty folder at a specific location. So if we wanted to touch a folder into that, or do you know the difference between those two commands?
Is the first one creating a actual folder and the other one's actual file, or no?
No. Well, it's all about pathing, so that's what we're talking about. So the top one should create a folder at the root of the actual drive. So basically, if you think Windows terms, it's C. Otherwise, it's just the root of the directory. And then the other one should take it wherever you're at locally.
Oh. Okay.
And so if we wanted to path our way to this specific location that we're at, I believe the path, and let me actually just check this with a new shell. PWD. So we're in users/jdalton/desktop. So we have to go /user/ and then what is it? /3NSS. Okay. So this is the difference between what's called an absolute path and a relative path. This is kind of an important difference. An absolute path tells you, and that's the top one, it tells you exactly where things are going to get put.
Okay.
Because I'm telling it, go to the root, right? Then then go to users, or user, then go to jdalton, okay? And then from jdalton, where am I going?
To the desktop?
To his desktop. And then from there, I'm going to go to where?
To the folder class 3NSS?
Right. And then what am I going to do?
Then it'll take you to the actual test.txt.
Right. Then I create that, right? Now, here's the thing, is these two commands are actually going to do exactly the same thing. Okay? The reason they're going to do the same thing is because this guy right here is running from exactly the location where it's being stored. It's saying wherever this thing is, put it there.
I see.
Where is it being stored?
In
up here.
Right.
Let's just do it. See if I can make this a little easier. Right. So where is that? My desktop, right? Desktop.
Correct.
And then we're in that. So class 3 NSS, shell script, right?
Yes.
So, and again, we do it that way. What do we have? We can see where it is. Desktop, class 3, that location.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yes.
Okay.
So again, basically, that just skips all that other stuff, and it just takes you directly there.
Well, it doesn't skip it. What it does is it's saying wherever this file is, run it there. So if I move the file from this location to somewhere else, it's going to put the file, that folder, that item wherever it is. I'll show you. I'll show you how that works here in a second. So the first time I run it, it should throw an error because it's going to try to create the same file. Actually, let me change this actually. So just call this test2.txt and test. So it should create two different files, right?
Right.
Okay, so if I run it, and let me pull up my Finder. So when we run it, what do we expect to happen? We expect to see two files appear right here, right?
Correct.
We should see test and text 2. Sorry. Look at that, test and test 2, okay?
Yeah.
But now watch this. So now we have this my shell script, and we're going to put it right in there, okay? Where is it located now?
Inside test.
Right. So I'm going to delete these two things that got built, okay? So now it's in the test folder. So if I run it again, watch the result.
Okay, can't find it. All right, because it was moved.
Oh, I moved it. So let me point to it. So, all right. So then we run it again. So first off, it errored out on how to make the folder. But now let's look what happened. Why are you telling me that? Should be running. All right, it's throwing an error and still making the two files. So move the trash. Let me do this. Folder. All right, so all I did was move it into my shell folder. All right, so let me take a look at it again. It's always when you have students on the line and you're recording it, things don't go right. No, it's not always at the right place, Joe. Come on. It should be. Oh, I know why. All right. So I'm going to go into the inner folder and then we run it from there. All right, there we go. All right, so what was the difference?
The new folder, the inner folder.
See now, yeah, I ran it from the inner folder, right?
Okay. Now we can see test and then test 2.
Right. So again, let me delete it. I'll delete all this and run it one more time. So I'm an inner folder, and you see what happened, right? So test 2 got created in the inner folder, right?
Right.
Where did I run it from? Where am I located?
In your inner folder.
Right. So let's take a look at the two different paths again. This one says to put the test.txt where? In the class 3 NSS folder. Sure. This says wherever you're being run from, wherever that is, run it from there. So in the first example, remember, we haven't changed this line of code at all.
Right.
The first time we ran it, where did it end up?
The first time or now?
The first time we ran it, it ended up here in the outer folder, right? In this outer section.
Right.
Right, and that's because we ran it from there. And then when we entered this folder and ran it from inside of there, what happened?
Now it shows it inside. Here. Right.
Right. And that's the difference between absolute and relative pathing.
Okay.
That's an important differential. So again, as far as pathing is concerned, another thing to know is the cd ... will take you up a level.
Mhm.
CD dot is self-reference. It's me right here, right where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Which, see how, and then I can autocomplete for inner folder. So again, it's the same thing. Right? It just moved me into the inner folder. You can chain those as well. So CD space dot dot is your parent, space dot dot will take us up 2 levels, which is now the desktop.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can do the same thing again. So you can use CD space, what is this class?
NSS.
Uh, okay, see what that is? It's kind of ridiculous, but I want to draw the point. It says, go into class NSS, go to the parent directory, go into class NSS, go to the parent directory, go into class NSS, go into the parent directory. And where do you end up?
Your desktop.
Right, back to where I was, right?
Right.
And if I went one less, I would be in class NSS. And again, that's just, we're just kind of jumping back and forth.
Okay.
And so, again, that's the basics of how to kind of navigate your way through Shell and how kind of chmod works. And that was kind of the highlights I wanted to touch on today. And it's about the end of class. So do you have any other questions before we kind of call it? I'm happy to help after the fact if you'd like.
No. This really helped a lot. It clarifies a few things that I didn't understand. So, and I think going into the cron assignment, it's going to make it easier now because now this example helped.
Yeah, and again, don't hesitate to contact me. Again, everybody has my cell phone number. It's the best way to get a hold of me. It's text message, and I know it seems it may bother some people or what have you. I hope it doesn't, because my intent to give you guys that is to let you guys know that I'm going to be available to you. So, I might not be able to answer your questions immediately, but at least you'll know that you'll get a hold of me, and I usually get your response and let you know when I'm available. So, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about this stuff.
Okay, I will not. Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay.
Hey man, again, I really appreciate your time, guys. Hopefully everyone has having a good time with this and as much fun as I am anyway. So thanks again, everyone. We'll call it, and I'll see you guys on Friday.
All right.
All right,
Thank you,
bye.
Dalton. All right, bye-bye.